Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week, and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, first of all, I always say this at the beginning of every week, at the beginning of every Q&A. Thank you very much for joining me this week. If you've watched one video, 2 videos, 20 videos, I really appreciate it. I really do. Now, don't forget with the Q&A, I'm giving my raw, unfiltered opinions. I'm not researching this at all. If I think a question deserves a longer answer, I'll put a video for it together at some point down the line. And one final point as well, which is if I miss your question, I'm very sorry. I've seen a lot of people ask questions recently on like just random videos, and a lot of the time I'll miss those. So if you've got a question for me, make sure you answer it. You ask it in this Q&A. Get the question in by Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest. I filmed this on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Today's a Wednesday. And if I miss it, I'm very sorry. Ask it below this video right now, and I'll get back to it the next week, I promise. But with that all being said, we're going to get straight into it. There's a bunch of questions here as far as I can see, so I think we should have a good one. Let's get straight into this week's Q&A. So the first question is, hi, Mr. Mike. And hi, Mr. Mike says, hello, Craig. Hello. I want to say thank you for inspiring me to learn a Memdeck and for your forecast project. You're more than welcome. You know, that's why that project was so important to me. I wanted to get people into Memdeck, and if that's happened to you, then that, you know, my work here is done. That's amazing. Does the Netrix teach any extra Memdeck tricks? No, but it is something I'm planning on doing. There are a bunch of routines that I never put on forecast that absolutely 100% I am going to be uploading at some point to the Netrix, but we're kind of busy at the moment making sure that we're adding more stuff to the stage and kids show category. So we're kind of bolting. We've got so many close-up tricks. We're trying to put more routines up on the stage section and on the kids show section, and there's a bunch of other stuff that we want to upload as well. So we will get to it, I promise. But it will probably be more towards the end of the year when any Memdeck routines go up. But hope that helps, and thanks very much for the question. Okay, so the next question is from the Magic of Seth, who says, when producing a trick like monsters, is it hard to get the rights to use images of the monsters? Well, that's a problem that I leave to the company I'm producing it with, to be perfectly honest. Like, I've got so I'll give you a couple of examples. I'm currently working with Murphy's on a trick to do with films, and we had to completely redraw the artwork for the movie posters in order to get around any problems. So we had to redraw the artwork for all of the movie posters. And I'll give you another example, actually, with, there's another thing that I'm working on with Penguin, actually. And it's all to do with certain iconic characters from history. And we realised that some we don't have the rights to, so we've had to change round certain characters and sub other characters in, which is absolutely fine, and nobody would even know. But when they ran it through their legal team, they were kind of like, okay, we might have a problem with this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. So those are the ones that got changed around. But a lot of the time, like with Monsters specifically, that was an Abe Gower and a Alakazam thing, and the artwork was all drawn by hand, which I think makes it less problematic. And also a lot of the monsters that were included in Monsters, you know, the kind of, you know, there's no copyright to them, you know, like Dracula's been around forever. So, you know, I know that Pete and Murphy's and everyone else I work with are very diligent about this sort of thing, but it's not something I get into. A lot of the time, if I'm working with a company and I'm talking about a particular product that might require images of something that everybody is aware of, I always speak to the company that I'm working with first of all to see if there would be any problems with that moving forward. I remember years ago, like this is like probably 16, 17 years ago, maybe more or less, I don't know. It was when I was working with World Magic Shop, and it was very early doors working with World Magic Shop. It was like when I think Costas was still there. It might not be. Anyway, I created a trick all based around Doctor Who, and it was an incredible trick. And we had all the artwork done as well, and we had like cartoon images. It was when David Tennant was the Doctor, and we had cartoon images of David Tennant, and it was incredible. It was such a great trick, and We had prototypes done and everything, and then Jim Trainer, who ran World Magic Shop at the time, just said, look, we're going to have to pull the plug on it. Legally, we can't get away with using Doctor Who's images, and there's no way we can do it without using the images. So I think you have to take it on a case-by-case, a trick-by-trick basis, but with monsters, as far as I'm aware, there wasn't too much of a problem. Okay, so the next question is from Elsie, who says, hi, Craig, couple of questions this week. Okay, we'll take them one by one. So first question, do you use a dropper or a holdout when using jumbo coins in your jumbo coin material? Or does grabbing them from your pocket work just as well? Great question. So well, it very much depends on the context in which I'm performing it. If I'm doing walk around magic, typically I'll have a 3-inch coin in my left-hand trouser pocket, and I'll have a 5-inch coin in my right-hand back pocket. And anyone who's seen my routine anyone who's seen my routine, the monster coin routine, will know why. It's because at the end of that particular routine, I do a 3-inch coin production, then a 5-inch coin production. So I typically have the coins in my pocket. Now, if I'm doing a parlor show, a lot of the time, if I'm doing a parlor show or a small stage show, I'm going to be doing something like Furious by Gary Kurtz. And when I'm doing Furious or some variation thereof, a lot of the time, I will absolutely 100% have coin droppers. I've got jumbo coin droppers that I have under the edge of my jacket. Both the left hand and the right hand side, which, you know, just makes things a little bit cleaner for that environment. The other thing is, obviously, it's an old school method, but it works. You can have the jumbo coin in your inside jacket pocket. So as you're searching for something, you drop it into your sleeve, and then you structure the routine so your hands are up here and you've got that coin locked in place. And then when you drop your hand to the side, you can then retrieve the coin. Now, that's great. All well and good. No problem at all. However, the issue there is if you've seen videos of me, I roll up my jacket sleeves when I'm performing for a couple of different reasons. One of which, I don't want people to think I'm using my sleeves when I do a lot of sleight of hand based routines. And secondly, a lot of the tricks that I do are based on tattoos that are on my arms. And if they can't see my arms, they can't see the final reveal. So it's almost impossible for me to use that technique. But if you have your jacket sleeves rolled down, it's a perfect technique to use. So yeah, I mean, I do use coin droppers, but you don't need to if you're doing walk around. You know, I wouldn't recommend it, to be honest, but it's really down to you as a performer. Okay, so the next question again is from Elsie, who says, I remember ages ago you mentioning in a video doing a 3-fly with jumbo coins. Do you have any more details on that, or am I just hallucinating it? Thanks so much for answering. I'd love to do a coin jam with you sometimes. I'd love that. Yes, I do a 3-fly. I've got a few different versions of 3-fly with random objects. I've got a 3-fly with jumbo coins, and I've also got a 3-fly with keys. I call it key fly. And key fly was one of the very first key tricks I came up with. It was before Keymaster, like 15 years ago. And it's really cool. You take 3 keys off your key fob, you hold them in your hand, and one at a time, they fly across. And jumbo coins look really great and really visual as well. So yes, I do that. Never published it, never kind of gone through it anywhere. At some point, it might be something I put on the Netrix, but it's very difficult, very complicated, and it uses a lot of jumbo coin sleights that I know a lot of people aren't into and don't do. So I've kind of hesitated on putting it on a particular project, but maybe at some point down the line. But yeah, 3-fly with jumbo coins, absolutely. And you've got another question here. Where can you get a 5-inch coin from? I think Penguin. You want a 5-inch coin, you can get a 3-inch, but you can't find a 5-inch. I'm pretty sure Penguin would sell a 5-inch jumbo coin. Let's have a look and see what they've got. Jumbo 3-inch, 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 3-inch. There's a jumbo 7-inch there. There's a jumbo 5-inch, but it's not a $50. That's a bit weird. You typically see them at magic conventions. You know, they're very popular at magic conventions. If you walk around a magic convention, there's a very good chance you're going to see about 10 or 15 jumbo 5-inch coins. I'd go to a magic convention and look there, because you're right, I don't seem to see any on Penguin, which is weird. Let's do a Google search. 5-inch jumbo coin for magic. What will we have here? Jumbo, okay, no, jumbo coins, Vanishing Ink. Okay, Vanishing Ink, I've got 3-inch, 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 5-inch, 5-inch, 5, no. 7-inch, they've got 7-inch in stock. So you got jumbo 7-inch, but I don't see any 5 inches. Yeah, go to a magic convention. That's probably your best bet. But if I can find a 5-inch somewhere, and I haven't been able to find one with a small search here, but if I find somewhere, that's really frustrating because there's loads of them. But if I find somewhere, I will let you know. Okay, so the next question is from Thomas Maloney Magician. Thomas Maloney is great, by the way. If you haven't followed him on Instagram, please do so. His Instagram videos are some of the funniest that I've ever seen. He's a great guy. So Thomas Maloney Magician says, we spoke about this briefly the other month, but what's the end game for Craig Petty? I don't know, frankly. I've always been very goal-driven, and I've got certain goals that I want to hit as a kind of magic creator, because you got to remember it was only about 2 years ago that I came back to the magic community after being away for a long time, and I didn't really have a plan. I was just having fun with it, and I still don't really have a plan as such, but there's certain things I'd like to do. I'd like to go to 4F. I'd like to lecture and perform at the Magic Castle. I'd like to lecture and perform I'd like to do an American tour. We talked about this last month. I'd like to do an American US lecture tour. I'd like to do some conventions in America. I'd like to do 4F. I've always wanted to do 4F. I want to do the Chicago Magic Lounge. There's a few places I'd like to perform and I've never had the opportunity. And there's a few places I'd like to lecture and I've never had the opportunity. I'd like to do that sooner rather than later. So there's that. In terms of the business, in terms of me as a performer or my companies or whatever, I want to leave a legacy. And I've spoken about this before on the channel, so I'm not going to dwell on this, but I really believe that you should leave magic in a better position it was when you first came into it. So I'd like to leave a legacy in this industry that's a positive legacy, so that people can look back and say, hey, you know, Craig Petty did this, or Craig Petty achieved this. I was speaking to Lloyd Barnes about Darwin Ortiz passing away recently, and he said, you die twice. The first time you die is when you die, and the second time you die is when the last person says your name for the last time, and you're therefore forgotten. And he said, I don't think that Darwin Ortiz's name is going to be forgotten for a very, very, very long time. And I completely agree. And I'd like to be in that same situation. I'd like to be in a situation where people remember, you know, what I've contributed to this industry. I think that's important. And in terms of the business, I'd like to be in a situation that when Ryland and Thea are old enough, if they want to take over the business, the family business, and run Non-Stop Kids and Slightly Unusual, it's there, and they can come in and take over the family business. You know, I'd like to see that happen if it's something that they want to do. In terms of, and also I don't want to perform longer than, you know, I remember seeing a guy, and I don't want to say his name, but I remember seeing a magician who back in the day was one of the best in the world, and this is a few years ago now, and I remember seeing him and he was a shadow of his former self, and he just wasn't, he was still going out because he'd had to, but he was just no, it was embarrassing, frankly. And I kind of call that the Ric Flair. It's a little bit like Ric Flair. So if anybody who watches wrestling will tell you, Ric Flair was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, arguably the best. And, you know, he retired way later than he should have. And even after he retired, he came back and he was wrestling last year. And it's just an embarrassment watching him wrestle now. It just looks like a, you know, what it is, which is a ridiculously old man trying to keep up with young people and failing miserably. And I don't want to be that guy. You know, I've got a very physical style when I perform on stage. I do stuff like the suit jacket escape. I'm running around. It's a lot of physical comedy. And, you know, I can still do that. I'm 47. That's fine. And I want to carry on performing for as long as I can. But I don't want to be that guy that should have hung up his boots a while ago. That's not the person that I want to be. And I want to be in a situation that when I do hang up the boots for good, that you know, it's fine, and I've achieved everything that I want to achieve. So and I think the ultimate thing is I want to support my kids, both Ryan and Thea. Now Thea doesn't really do magic, and that's fine. You know, she's got other interests, but Ryland, he loves magic, he loves performing, and he wants to be a professional magician, and that's great. And my ultimate goal right now is to support him. that's what I want to do more than anything else. I want to support him. I've had my career and I've achieved more than I ever possibly could have. When I first found out about magic, if you told me where I am right now and the position I'm in, I would just be the happiest guy on earth. And, you know, I've achieved more than I ever could have imagined. And my goal now is to help Ryland achieve whatever goals he's got. And, you know, whatever goals he has, as long as I'm able to try and help him achieve those goals, that's what I'm going to do. So those are the... but other than that, there's not really an end game. It's just have fun. You know, I remember doing a Q&A. Well, I didn't do it. Chris James was doing a Q&A on the Netrix Discord with Ryland. And he asked a question, and the question was, have you got any advice for adults in magic? And Ryland said, hey, have more fun. Remember that magic's meant to be fun. Stop arguing about it. Stop moaning about it, and just have fun. And it's very true. You know, sometimes we forget that this is an industry where, you know, we should be having a lot of fun. We're performers, we're entertainers. We should be having fun entertaining people. I love magic, I love performing, and I thank my lucky stars that I get to do that every day professionally, because there's a lot of people out there that go to work every day and they hate their job. They hate their job. They hate their job. And they wish they could do anything to leave their job, but they're kind of stuck in it. I love what I do, and I'm very lucky to have that position, and I just want to carry on doing it. Okay, so the next question is 90 Day Finance, who says, favourite performer, favourite creator, favourite trick. Wowzers. Favourite performer, Scott Alexander, without a shadow of a doubt. There's nobody who touches him. I think he's the greatest comedy magician of all time, and it's so sad that he left us way too early. But definitely Scott Alexander. Favourite creator? You know what? When it's all said and done, if I have to look at a body of work, so I'm going to be looking at everything, this person didn't create my favourite trick. In fact, my top 10 favourite tricks probably weren't created by this person, but this person influenced my career more than any other person in terms of when I got into magic. I was obsessed with this person I'm going to tell you about now, and I would perform all of their material, and still now, they influence what I do in many, many ways, and their creations are fantastic. So my favourite creator I'm going to say is Jay Sankey. Yeah, I think if I take everything into account, everything he's done from way back in the day when he was publishing magic in the Richard's Almanac, all the way through to present day, I'm going to go with Jay Sankey. And favourite trick, I'm going to say the Extractor deck by Alakazam. I'll never forget when I first saw the Extractor deck. I was at Blackpool, and I went over to the Alakazam store, and I saw Pete Nardi perform it for me. And I didn't really have a relationship with Pete back then. He didn't know who I was. I didn't really know him. But I went over to the stand, and he showed me the Extractor deck. I've never been so fooled in my life. I bought it immediately. But then I went back, and I didn't have time to open it. But I went back like probably about 20 times over the course of the Blackpool convention, just watching him perform it again and again and not having a clue. And you know, like sometimes you buy a trick, and when you buy it, you realise it's not as good as you thought, and you're disappointed with it, and you know it's going to be destined to stay in your bottom drawer. It was amazing that when I watched the instructions for the Extractor deck, it was something that I looked at and I was like, you know what? I can use this. I can put this into my act. This is incredible. I love this. And that's what I did. I carried on using it in my act ever since. And it's commercial. It's brilliant. There's so many different things you can do with it. I would say it's probably my favorite trick of all time. I've had a lot of people from America that have commented on the video telling me about lectures and, hey, I'd like you to come here, I'd like to come there, I'd like you to go here, I'd like to go there. And I'd love to go to all of these places. I'd like to spend the next couple of years spending a lot of time lecturing in America. I love America. I love it. I love it. And I want to see more of America. The problem is, I've got somebody here saying, hey, come to Nashville. Love to Nashville. Come to Ohio, in Youngstown. I'd love to come to Ohio. But the problem is, I need somebody to help me organize this convention. I'd like to have somebody help me organize a lecture tour, and I'd happily pay them for it and organize it around conventions. So while I'm there and I'm doing all these dates, I could maybe organize an appearance at a convention as well. That's kind of what I'm trying to achieve. So I need to find somebody who can organise this for me, because I'm not going to have time to organise it myself. And also, I don't know the lay of the land enough to organise it myself. But Thank you. I am making a note of everything that you guys are saying. Come to this club, come to this club. I think there's interest over in America for me to come over there, which is great. I just need to have somebody who can help me put this together. If you're out there, if you can help me, please get in touch. Okay, so the next question is from Jonah Berg, who says, the tricks you buy for the review show are decent, but I strongly believe if you want to push magic forward, you should buy all the newest magic books and review those, whether it's magic or mentalism, because you are clearly good at reading as David Penn is, so please review more books. I try to review books, but the problem with reviewing a book is it takes a period of time. I can't just look at a book and then put it on the review show. I have to read it. How can I review a book without reading it? And when you read a magic book, it's not a case of just reading it. It's a case of reading it and sitting down and trying the tricks out to see if they're any good. And it takes a while to do that. So me and Ryan have just recorded a review show where we reviewed The Pages Are Blank, which is the new book by Vanishing Ink. And I had that book for about 4 weeks, reading it on and off, taking it everywhere with me until I got a handle on it to the point that I could perform a couple of the routines and I could actually do it, and I could review it properly. So the problem is you can't review a book. I'm currently reading the new book by Charlie Fry, which is an amazing book. It's a great book. But I've been reading it for a couple of weeks and I'm nowhere near the point where I can review it. So unless we kind of strip back to one review show a month and I just review a book a month, it's easy for someone to say, hey, review more books. But in reality, from a practical point of view, it's actually very difficult to do, because when you have a physical product, you look at the tutorial, you learn the trick, you can review it. You can't do that. So I either pay it lip service and I review the book without actually kind of spending. It's why I was able to review a lot of the Quantum Reads books straight away, because there's only 4 tricks in there. So it was very easy for me to review them. And it's the same with this, to be perfectly honest. So I have 2 or 3 books in my review pile that I'm currently working my way through, and they will see reviews, but it's never going to be a weekly thing, because I have to spend time and effort into learning it and into actually reading the book through in order to give the author the correct review. I don't want to half-arse it, because it's not fair on the person that's created it or the author. It's not fair on the company that's published it. So it takes a while, but I'll get there, I promise. The next question is from Darren Bain, who says, regarding unbiased magic and all that drama, my own humble, purely personal opinion is, 1, if you're about the money, you'd charge a lot more for some of your effects. £15 for the bronze level of Netrix, considering the massive content. That's unbelievable. 2, bad father. The smile on Ryland's face tells you he's not being forced into anything. And if you're one of those pushy parents, then surely Thea will be all over the TV and Magic World too. I think anyone with an atom of common sense can quite clearly see that Ryland is enjoying what he's doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, Craig. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, so let the naysayers say their piece. You know from the comments on your channel, from the comments every time you do an Alakazam Academy launch or the Tuesday lives, you know there's plenty of respect for you out there and plenty of people who are fans of what you do. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I go through highs and lows with this stuff, and it's difficult to not read negativity, and it's difficult to kind of avoid that. You try your best, but sometimes it's impossible. And 99 times out of 100, I'm in a good place and it doesn't bother me, and sometimes it does. But I've kind of come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter what I do or what I say, I'm just going to wind people up the wrong way. I made the mistake of looking. Somebody told me to look on the the problem is I get people telling me to look at stuff all the time. So I had someone tell me to look at the video that Unbiased did on me, and after I did the Q&A last Sunday, and somebody went on there and said, "Hey, Craig did a 15-minute reply to you. He needed an Academy Award because he was, he was laying it on thick. He's always playing the victim." And it kind of, the thing is, I can't win, right? If I'm humble and I say I'm sorry and I try and end the conflict, I get comments like that. If I'm angry and shouty, I just can't win. When you realize that there's a certain cross section of people that you can't please, regardless of what you do, then you just kind of have to accept that you just have to carry on doing what you do. And if people like it, great. If they don't, no problem. The hilarious thing is the majority of people that don't like it and will then bitch about it somewhere else will, they're the people that are watching all of my content. I mean, they must be really feeling bad about themselves. Like the guy that left that comment, he said, hey, you've got to watch Craig's latest Q&A because there's a response to Unbiased and it's 15 minutes long and it's at this point in the video. We never said that I was doing a reply to Unbiased. It's not like I actually put it into the title or the thumbnail or even into the description of the video. It was just a question that I answered under a bunch of questions. So in order to know that, this person's going to have watched the Q&A and gone through to that point. And that's the thing, a lot of people that moan about my content, they watch it. They now they may watch it because they want to have a reason to bitch about it. You know, like, oh, what's Craig said now? Maybe he said something that we can use against him. Or maybe it's because they actually like the content and they, you know, they don't want to tell people they like the content. Or maybe it's just that, you know, they're jealous and they watch my content because of, you know, then they can say, well, I would have done this, but I don't know what the reason. But a lot of the time, a lot of the people that bitch and moan about me are the same people that watch all of my content. So, you know, fair play to them. Whatever, you know, it's all good. When you realize that there's nothing you can do, you can't win regardless of what you do. The best thing to do is just to go out there and be yourself. And then if people want to join you and if people want to, you know, buy into your message, then that's great. And if they don't, more power to them. That's absolutely fine as well. So Darren Bain has got another question who says, if the free Coin Magic Academy next year is anything like the recent free card one, it's going to be an absolutely essential viewing. I've got Apparition and Mirage, and I'm budgeting to ensure I can buy Nightshade when it comes out. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, you know, I want to do more of these free academies, and I've said that to Pete. I'd like to do a follow-up to the card one that I did. Everybody raved about that card academy, and it was so nice to see. And I've already started planning the second one or the next one. So I'm super excited about that. And yeah, we're going to do a coin one. I'm thinking about pitching to Pete the idea of doing a business academy as well. I think that would be quite good fun. But yeah, I love doing that. You know, it's one of my favorites. So thanks very much. I'm glad you liked it. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Blair, who says, can you talk about non-magic props that magicians should carry? For example, deodorant, breath mints, sewing kit. It'd be cool for a lot of, it'd be cool for a 10 non-magic things a magician should carry. Absolutely, 100%. I think that's a really good idea, Stephen, and I'll definitely get to that at some point in the future. I might even do one for kids' parties and put their taser, cattle prod, stuff like that. I think is a useful thing to take to kids' parties. But yeah, I'll definitely do that. I think that would be a fun thing to talk about. So yeah, thanks for the idea. I'm definitely going to do that. Okay, so the next question is from Agent Suter, who says, hi, Craig. I loved your interview with Phil Smith on the fusion mosaic phenomenon, and I ordered it immediately, as you should. It's a brilliant deck. I'm aware of other picture decks like Snaps, Mark Smelman's Gallery, and Patrick Redford's Photographic deck. I think you've reviewed most of these. Can you share some thoughts on the pros and cons and which is your favourites? Wow, what a question. What a question. What a question. I'm jingling here. Okay, so let's go through them all. So Snaps, what's the pros and cons? Snaps has a ton of magic on it, and David Jonathan, Nick, and Dan Harlan do a great job of putting that across. I also love that you've got that sixth sense moment with Snaps. You know, you don't, it's a little bit different to the fusion mosaic phenomenon because there's letters in there or symbols or numbers, and they don't see those. They don't realize what they're looking at until they take a step back, and then they realize, and then it's like, oh my gosh. And I think the idea of having somebody, you know, walking up to a complete stranger, showing them the photo deck, having them pick some random cards, and then those random cards end up being the name of the card that they, their name, and they don't realize it, is great. I also think the stop trick that they do is one of the best stop tricks that I've ever seen. Snaps is brilliant. I absolutely love Snaps. In terms of a negative, there's almost so much material. It's like, what trick do you choose? Because a lot of the material on Snaps, not all of it, but a lot of the material on Snaps requires a setup. Particular letters in particular places. And so a lot of the time, unless you're going to set up a whole deck and go from one routine to the other, you have to pick which routine to do. I would have liked to have seen more routines on Snaps with just a regular shuffle deck of cards that's not been set up in any way. That's the only negative I can think of because it is such a great deck. I'll be honest, I haven't got Mark Spellman's gallery deck. I wanted one, but I haven't got one. And I need to get one. Maybe I can beg, borrow, or steal one from Pete, but I haven't got a gallery deck. But I've heard good things about it, but I can't give you my thoughts on the gallery deck because I haven't got one. Patrick Redford's photographic deck is great. Like, it's really good if you're going to do mind reading and stuff. But it could be more direct. I mean, the thing is, you need to have, I mean, I've memorized it, right? But you need to have a pretty good memory to memorize what the cards are, because in essence, how the photographic deck works is that each picture relates to a playing card. So, you know, the black and white images are the black cards, the color images are the red cards, and then you've got, you know, I don't want to give you the method or anything, but the thing with it is you have to memorize all of that first in order to be able to get the full use out of the deck. And it's marked on the back, but it's marked in such a way. I really struggled with the marks on the back of the photographic deck. I couldn't follow them at all. That was a real problem for me, the marks. And I use the photographic deck, but I don't use the marking system at all. I think the best way to use the photographic deck is to use it in the context of a memorized deck. So, you know, like I would see the two of diamonds, or the card that represents the two of diamonds, the picture that represents the two of diamonds. And if I've got the deck in mnemonic, I go, well, okay, now I know that the next card is 20, which is the Jack of Hearts. So then I can say what the Jack of Hearts is, and I can describe the image that they've taken or whatever it may be. But there's a lot more memory work with the photographic deck. Although one of the big pros is, once you've got the system down, it's absolutely incredible. It's very intuitive. And there's lots of really fun add-ons as well. What Patrick did, which I thought was great, is he brought add-on packs out as well. So there's a lot of visual magic and there's a lot of stuff that you can do that you can add on to the deck that allows you to kind of take it to the next level. The Fusion Mosaic Phenomenon deck, I would say, is my favorite picture deck that's out right now. And you know, I'm not going to talk about why I love it because I did a whole video on it, but I've been using that now for 3 or 4 weeks. The reactions it gets are incredible. And the reveal is brilliant, but there's a lot more you can do as well as just having the reveal. So you've got the reveal built in there. Yeah, that incredible reveal that you saw Rylan do on America's Got Talent. But then you've got a bunch of other stuff as well that's built into it as well. I mean, it's great. Go back and watch my video on it if you haven't done so. I will tell you that there's another photo deck that's coming out early 2024. And it's a photo deck that's been developed by myself and Lloyd Barnes. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's not the time. Despite what people say, I don't hype tricks. If you actually look back at my releases, and the one exception to this is the Quantum deck, but if you look back to all of my releases, I'll maybe mention, oh, I've got something coming out. If you look back at older videos earlier this year, I said, yeah, I've got something coming out to do with Rubik's Cubes. It's a project to do with Rubik's Cubes, but it doesn't actually involve a Rubik's Cube. That's all I'll do. Now, that I don't think is hyping a product because I'm not even telling you what the product is or what it does. I'm just saying I've got something coming out in the future. And then if you look at all of my products, the one exception being the Quantum deck, the first time you'll find out about it is when it drops onto the dealer's shelves as a pre-order. You know, with the Alakazam stuff, I don't even tell people that I'm doing a live launch. They announce a live launch, and then I just pop up there. So I try not to hype anything that I do, other than the Quantum deck. That was a different beast. But I will tell you that next year I've got a photo deck coming out that I've developed with Lloyd Barnes, and it takes the concept of photo decks in a completely different direction. I'm not saying anything else, but look out for that. But right now, I love Snaps. I love the photographic deck by Patrick Redford, and I love the Fusion Mosaic Phenomenon. They're all great. Okay, so the next question is from Ian Walton, who says, great video as always, Craig, exceptionally helpful. Your reply was done in a very adult and gentlemanly way and should be commended on this. Thank you. Super excited to hear that a new video will be coming out for the owners of the Elite Coin range. I have 2. Thank you very much as well. Is there any news on when the Mirage deck project, the Svengali deck project, and the co-created Gaff deck project are likely to be released? You may have already said, but I'm an idiot. In fact, a better question is, would there be any deck projects coming out this year? I have the creative juices of a house brick and I need some more Craig Petty in my life. The Mirage deck project will not come out until 2024. It is in the warehouse at Alakazam. It's there. It's done. The tutorial's done. The live performances are done. It's done. It's finished. They have everything. The problem is, you know, Alakazam have so much stuff to bring out. And there's 2 more Craig Petty tracks coming out this year. We've got the Nightshade coin set coming out. And I've got a Christmas trick coming out that's based a little bit on monsters, which has been phenomenally popular. So, you know, you can't have Craig Petty release from Alakazam coming out every week. And I've got other stuff to release as well. So I could see it coming out very early 2024. The Svengali deck project, your guess is as good as mine. That project has been written for about 3 years. Nemid Phoenix is so frustrated because I showed him all the routines from the Svengali project literally at about the same time that Visible came out. And I showed it him all and I said, look at this. And he said, that's amazing. That's one of the best projects I've ever seen you put together. And he still believes that. And every single day he says to me, when's the Svengali deck project coming out? I want it. I really want it. Your guess is as good as mine. It's ready to film. It's just not being filmed. I don't know. At some point, I would like to think 2024. I think it's probably the best project. I love doing these projects like the Cheeky project on the Cheek to Cheek deck, and Forecast on the Mem deck, and the Beyond Stebbins project on the Stebbins deck, and the Mirage deck project on the Mirage deck. All of these, I love doing them. Invisible, obviously, on the Invisible deck. Love doing them. I love, you know, like really taking apart something that everybody's used to and pushing it in a different direction. And the Svengali project, I think, could be the best of the lot. Co-created gaff deck. Are you talking about me and Lloyd's gaff deck? The cards are designed. We're holding off on having a deck printed because we're trying to do something that's never been done before. And we're waiting to hear if it can be done. We're in a situation where all of the cards have been designed. We need to get prototypes and we just need to make sure everything works like we want it to. Once we've got the prototypes and we're happy with it, I'll then probably, Lloyd doesn't perform, I'll then probably go away for about a month and a half, and I'll just work all of the gaffs in. And then we'll be ready to film it. But we're waiting to hear back about something that will literally take it to the next level. And we're holding off until we hear that. So I could see middle of next year. I mean, you can't rush this stuff. But I'd say middle to end of next year, I think you'll be seeing the Craig and Lloyd gaff deck. Are there any other deck projects coming out this year? There might be a deck coming out from Murphy's. I've filmed all the live performances. I've filmed all the tutorials. This is another like Cube 52 style project in that it is very long. It's probably about 6 hours long, maybe 6.5, 7 hours long. And I'm on the project with Pete Turner and Pete Nardi. They have sections on there, just like with Cube 52. And it's probably, I mean, it's a tool and it's a special deck. And yeah, the performances have done some of the best reactions that I've ever had to anything that I've ever filmed. The tutorials are done. I know the decks are in the Murphy's warehouse. I think they're just waiting on the packaging. But I could see this coming out before the end of the year as well. So I think that one might be coming out. But that's the only deck that I've coming out this year, unless Penguin pulled a finger out with the Lego deck. I've got this Lego deck coming out that I've told everyone about, that me and Phil Smith designed together a couple of years ago, and it's the deck that Ryland used on America's Got Talent to get Heidi Klum to pick a helicopter. And what you just saw Ryland do with that is literally 0.5% of what that deck can do. But it's an amazing deck of cards. And I know that that's coming out soon, but Penguin don't really tell me ahead of time what things are coming out, so I never know ahead of time. I always have to guess. But that project is filmed, and I know the decks have been ordered, and by the timeline of when I went to film it, they should be there now. I don't know. But, you know, that might come out through Penguin soon, so look out for that. Considering I said I don't hype my own projects, I've just hyped a lot of stuff coming out. But you asked, Ian, you asked. I'm just answering the question, right? Okay, so the next question is from the Fess, who says, "Hi, Craig, it's been a while. How have you been doing lately?" Very good. How are you? Wanted to post a question for your Q&A. Do you think a tutorial should be tied to a product, or should it be sold alongside the product? I'm buying less Magic these days and have been on and off Magic for a while, but I'd like to watch a tutorial of how a product works and if it's going to be for me before making my decision to buy the product, especially if it's expensive. In terms of piracy, it might make things worse, but if a scumbag wanted to rip the tutorial off and sell it elsewhere, they'd probably do so regardless. Yeah, I just... Most, you know, there are obviously piracy sites out there, and, you know, there are unscrupulous members of the Magic community who will go and frequent those piracy sites to buy Magic, and there's nothing that anybody can do about that. But in terms of a product being sold, you have to understand, and I've talked about this before on this channel, but I'll mention it again. What you have to remember is, to most people that buy Magic, Magic's a hobby, and that's absolutely fine. But for the people that are producing Magic, and the producers and the wholesalers and the Magic shops, it's a business with a lot of expenses. And they rely on people buying tricks to create income to pay those expenses and make a profit. Take Alakazam, for example. They have to pay rates on their unit or on their units. They have to pay the cost of producing Magic tricks. They have to pay staff wages. There's a ton of marketing, social media. There's a ton of costs that they have. So when they are selling Magic tricks, they're relying on the income for those Magic tricks to, you know, create turnover and therefore eventually profit. It's the same with the wholesaler. It's the same with anybody. It's the same with a magician. A magician has certain expenses, whether it be advertising on Google AdWords or it's whatever it may be. And they rely on people booking them for gigs so that they can pay those expenses. So the problem that you have is a lot of people that buy Magic, they buy it because they want to learn the secrets. You know, it's that old expression, isn't it? A pro will buy the same trick 100 times. You know, no, that's not how it goes. I can't remember exactly, but, you know, it's the amateurs that buy a lot of the newer tricks, while pros tend to buy more flash paper and, you know, more of this and more of that and more refills. So pros tend to buy don't tend to buy a lot of the new tricks. It tends to be bought by amateurs, hobbyists, semi-pros, people who absolutely love Magic, because I honestly believe a lot of pros don't love Magic. And some people buy tricks just to learn the secret. I've done that. I bet you if you're willing to admit it, most people that are watching this video have bought a trick at one point or another to learn a secret. I remember when Voodoo Needle came out at Blackpool. Everybody was buying that, and it was priced at like 10 quid, and everybody was handing out 10 quid left, right and centre because they just wanted to know how it worked. They wanted to know the secret. That's what they wanted. You know, and I bet you a lot of people that bought Voodoo Needle never even used it at all. But they all wanted to know how the trick was done, so they bought the trick so they could learn the secret. And it's the same with a lot of Magic. You buy the trick because you want to learn the secret. You're probably never going to perform it. If you gave away the tutorial, you know, and let people watch the tutorial so they can make an informed buying decision, then, you know, there's a very good chance that people won't buy it because they've learned the secret. And so therefore sales will go down. Now, if sales go down, less Magic's going to be produced because the wholesalers are making less, the Magic shops are making less, creators are making less, so they won't bother creating. It's just going to be not a good situation for the industry. So I don't see that sort of thing ever happening, to be perfectly honest. Unless. The only way is if it's a trick that, like, everybody would want, and you couldn't do it unless you had the trick. So, for example, I can't think of an example. I really can't think of an example. But, okay, it's one of my tricks. I'm not saying this is the greatest trick of all time, but I'm going to use one of my tricks as an example. Look at Cube 52. So Cube 52 is a special deck. You're not going to be able to do anything on Cube 52 unless you have that deck of cards, right? So you need the deck of cards in order to do Cube 52. So maybe if you let everyone see the tutorial and then they made a decision as to, you know, whether they bought it based on that. I don't know. I just don't see that ever taking off in the industry. But I might be wrong. Maybe it will. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But I can't see that happening. The other part of your question is, do you ever plan on lecturing in Australia? I'd love to come and see you one day. I'd love to. My friend Chris Congreve is over there at the moment in Australia and New Zealand lecturing, and I'd love to do the same. You know, I want to see different places of the world that I haven't seen, and I want to meet magicians all over the world that because I love magic. And yeah, if anybody's in Australia and wants to give me a lecture tour, I'd be more than happy to go over and do that. Okay, so the last question is from DJ the Magician, who says, "Hi there, Craig. I'm not sure where to put this question." Okay, you've put it in the right place. I have a gig coming up in a month in an Indian temple walk around with a 30-minute time period set for me to perform when nobody will be doing prayers. Some of the older members don't speak English and I can't communicate with them. And the age ranges are like little kids to teens and adults to elders. What advice can you give me regarding how to go about a gig at a temple, and specifically what tricks to do for people who don't speak English, and how to make tricks flow and make set lists when I'm unable to speak my segues? Like, I can't say, "You saw how to make coins turn into Chinese coins. I bet you're wondering if that skill is useful. Here, I'll show you on a larger scale and go into extreme burn," because they won't know what I'm saying. Thank you so much. Well, I think in that case, you just need to kind of just do hit and run magic. And what I mean by that is, you know, you just perform a trick, you perform to them, and then you kind of take out another trick and perform another trick and perform to them, and then another trick and another trick. That's what I had to used to do in nightclubs. I used to do nightclubs back in the day till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and it was so loud and nobody could hear a word that I was saying, like not a word. You couldn't hear anything. So I just did super visual magic, and I was just, you know, like I wasn't even talking because it would have just hurt my voice. I was just, you know, I seem to remember back in the day, I had this badge, "I'm a magician," and I'd point to it, and then I'd just do some magic and I'd make it super visual, and delights were great because of being in a nightclub. But I also work for a lot of corporates. You know, I live just down the road from JCB, and many times I've been booked to perform events in there and hardly anyone speaks English, and they're being shown around the factory, but nobody speaks English. And so I'm having to go around and do magic for these people that don't speak English. And I typically will just go over there with like 4 coins, and I'll do a cup your hands together gesture, and they can see what's happening. The coins are vanishing from here, they're appearing over there. They understand the concept, they understand exactly what's happening. I don't need to actually explain it to them. Sometimes if you can't have your audience understand, then let the magic speak for itself. Pick effects that are really easy to follow, that don't require people to understand what you're doing. Stay away from card tricks, do visual sleight of hand based tricks, and don't worry too much about presenting and transitioning from one routine to the other. Instead, just focus more on making the magic speak for itself. So there you go, guys. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. Really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you want to see more videos like this, you just got to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. If you haven't already done so, please check out the Netrix. That's www.thenetrix.com. Go check it out, see what all the fuss is about. I'll be back at 6 o'clock with another video, Magic Live, and I'll be back at 9 o'clock with a review show special. And this time I'm looking at Dig It, which is a brand new effect, self-published by Ian Bailey. So go check out all of that, and I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.